This is Lynn Fraser with the Kiloby Center for Recovery. Today I'm really delighted to be able to speak with Father Joe Pereira. He's done a lot of work with addiction, yoga, meditation, with people with HIV and AIDS, worked with Mother Teresa. I'll let Father Joe tell you a little bit more about his work.
46 years with Iyengar, studying his methodology, priest for 52 years, serving mainly the community in affliction of not only addiction but HIV/AIDS, and using the blend of the spirit of Mother Teresa with Iyengar in a very clinical and yet psycho-spiritual, psychosocial, and psychosomatic manner. So we're talking as the World Health Organization speaks about this problem as a whole person recovery problem. And addiction has opened up a tremendous amount of insights into both the beginnings and the healings. So the beginnings are, earlier the emphasis was very much on genetics and, genetic factors, and I don't want to be judgmental and say it went wrong, but something did not really happen by which the person did not feel loved, and so chose to walk away from a person to a thing. Martin Buber always said that we're born for an I-thou relationship. However, when this is not available, we move into an I-it relationship. And this it starts with a variety of substances for self-gratification, sex, gambling, misuse of money, power is a big thing, other things like shopping and internet and pornography. So now our focus has to be very person-oriented, person-specific, because you don't know whether it was a trauma that led to this, whether it was a discovery of being abused, or a discovery of not being given one's authentic rights as a person. And then also the other structures come in, like, community-wise, there has been holding on to certain ethos. And every generation doesn't like that ethos. They want to switch over. They want to, the strong energies of any tribe, nation, community, what have you, when it is so strong that it becomes self-righteous, then those who are under these people's care have a tendency to embarrass them by choosing their disowned energy. A very simple example is a very highly qualified family, a lot of wealth, a lot of knowledge, degrees, PhDs, and all that, and they would feel embarrassed if someone is not on that wavelength. So they disown that energy to bring that energy back through their children, through their loved ones, through their business partners, whatever, And in addiction, we are looking at a whole lot of reactive behavior. We react. And my entire ministry has been respond, don't react. just respond. Responding brings in a whole vision of inclusion. You don't, you appreciate the variety of life, and you take it in rather than cut it off. And we only enrich our lives when we learn from the other. And my addicts have taught me more than all my education and everything, because they their stories are so revealing of how somebody failed them, or somebody hurt them, or someone was not just there and they walked alone. And it's very painful to walk alone in this world. And if the human being is not with me, then I walk with the chemical, with the sexual satisfaction, with money, and all kinds of other, self gratification modalities, and that leads to brokenness and pain, because our hearts are made for love. We are restless, find love. So my whole ministry has been influenced by Mother Teresa. And when I went through a crisis of not only the priests quit the priesthood, got married, also having a crisis of faith. Couldn't look beyond this and in those days when I was just ordained, the encounter with Mother Teresa was an encounter that I would compare with the founding father, one of the co-founders of the Alcoholics Anonymous, when he had this kind of flash. And I think sometimes when that happens, you are a wholly new person. You no more carry the archetypes with which you have been living. You choose new archetypes. Okay? My life has been a blend of reaching out to the unfortunates, poorest of the poor. There are two types of poverty: poverty of the developing world and the poverty of the affluent world. Poverty of the developing world has to be helped by bread. Mahatma Gandhi always said, to the poor, God comes in the form of bread. It is a dimension that today requires a lot of special attention. Why are the haves getting richer and the have-nots getting poorer?
Right.
This is very, very clear in the developing countries. About 10% of the population own 90% of the wealth. And 10% of the population own 10% of the wealth. So huge discrepancy brings in people to help. But there the help can be in two ways: giving out of your abundance, or like Mother Teresa, giving out of your poverty.
Right.
So when you're helping, when the first world, the second world reached out to the third world and gave all kinds of help, it culminated in PL 480, which was where the developing countries told the developed countries, stop it. Because when you do this, you trample upon our basic human dignity. So found a beautiful way of helping. And that is not from your abundance, but from your own lack of resources, from your own poverty. And in addiction, this principle was beautifully accepted by the self-help program. When mutually we share ability, the human being gets empowered. I don't come from, uh, let's say, professionalistic attitude.
Mm-hmm.
See myself liking to be professional and liking to do the Rorschach's tests and MMPI tests and psychoanalysis and REBT and all that. But all that is cellular consciousness. The body, don't listen to the body. You can create a lot of theories, and there are a lot of theories today in the addiction world. Each one is contradicting the other. Say it openly, but when they have presented their model, a whole lot of people stand condemned. Because addiction is such a subtle uh, game of blaming, blaming people. This doesn't work because no one knows what ultimately caused the state in which I went into addiction.
One thing that seems to be commonly understood is that trauma causes disconnection. There's a lot of disconnection in addiction as well.
Yeah, disconnection, because we are wounded. When we are wounded, there are two attitudes you can take. One of, don't touch me.
Mm-hmm.
Touch me not. But the other attitude is that of touch with care, with love. And access, that's the skill of an addiction worker, counselor, therapist, whatever, that I try to absorb your pain. I try to feel your pain. And I would like to come also from that awareness where you are. And if I can share my own pain and how I kind of coped with that pain and began to reverse blaming the whole world and taking responsibility for whatever is there. Now, this happens, we can do this on a psychological plane, but I am a Hatha yogi. I am a man who listens to my body all the time. Even this morning, I was on my hands, on my head, on my back, listening to the body and giving me an insight in caring. It's a Greek word, kara. It means to suffer with. I have an injury in the body, and I don't have to take an attitude of don't touch me. No, but I have to access that injury with love. And at that time, pain is absolutely necessary. But in the model of don't touch me, you run away from pain. So you deal with pain with a certain amount of I don't like you. And the irony is the pain is a cry from that person, from that body to feel loved. And for Iyengar and for us yogis, to feel loved is to pay attention, to be attending to that pain. Now, when you're doing that, you're going to go through excruciating pain. But now you have to distinguish between the good pain and the bad pain. And when you work on the whole person and you discover that there are so many dimensions which are broken, and therefore you don't want to enter those dimensions. The unconscious, for instance, the traumas that have deeply gone into my cellular consciousness, they play a big role in recovery because the self-help program refers to them as character defects. This is one thing where I think I hope I'm not mistaken, cupboard mate and all, they rightly very they are in a clinically critical assessment of the self-help program, uh, do say that there is an element of little bit of morality, and addicts don't like morality. I mean, they are amoral. They don't like to be identified as violators of some man-made rule.
Well, there's so much shame with addiction.
Yes. So to address that shame and also to address that guilt, there is
Mhm.
no guilt. One has to come to celebrate the essential goodness within you. When a person comes to me for treatment, I look into his eyes, her eyes, and I say to that person, "You are good." The person can't cope with that. I am good.
Mhm.
The whole world condemns me. And I said,
Mhm.
"You are good." And the second thing I say to this person, I need you. I need you. Because the brokenness in the world can only be healed by people who come from brokenness. And any one of us who is living in a state of denial or a state of forgetting the brokenness within us, then we become self-righteous, then we become judgmental, then we pity people. That kind of help is, to say the least, is abominable. Because in our recovery centers, I'm sorry to say, particularly in Canada, North America, our recovery centers have to have people who openly acknowledge their brokenness and pain.
Right.
They, we ourselves have to come out of our shame and guilt. And if my patient sees that I am hiding a whole lot of pain and guilt, all that I'm going to preach is is counterproductive. They say
Right.
clearly that your life speaks so loudly that we can't hear what you're saying with your mouth.
Right. Well, and your life speaks loudly. And, I actually met you in the late 80s in Calgary at the AIDS Calgary Association.
Oh,
You were there with Val working with people with AIDS. And, there weren't very many people at that time that were willing to connect with people with AIDS. There was such stigma and such fear. And, the work that you do, all of the work you do with recovery too. I know someone in Calgary who saw you speak at Simon House and had a real spiritual awakening.
thank you.
And he's still clean 3.5 years later. And he's doing so well. He was a heroin addict. So the work that you do makes such a difference.
I'm grateful. I think this is the affirmation that I receive and I get the energy to carry on. People ask me, how do you get the energy? The energy comes from the very work that I do,
Yes.
good that we do. Itself is our reward. And every evil that we do is itself our punishment. So I get energized. And every day, without any exaggeration, every day there are people, families reach out and say, for me, you have been our conduit, our connection.
Yes.
As Mother Teresa and Iyengar was for me, Mother Teresa, psychospiritually, psychosocially, Iyengar, psychosomatically. Maybe perhaps, when working in the body, you can work with the body in three attitudes. The attitude of lethargy, that this body has lost its connectivity with me, and I just there's a kind of a burden. And so that's tamasika, lethargy attitude. Second attitude is I know how to build this body, and I go into all all kinds of gymnastics and exercise, running, all that. Good, getting what is known as release of endorphins, runner's high.
Mhm.
But the real attitude towards the body has to be what we call in Sanskrit sattvikata, holy. To treat this as a temple of God. When you treat your body as a temple of God, then you see that it requires a lot of cleansing. And when you're in the process of cleansing, you go through a lot of pain, but you also receive the nitric oxide. What cellular biologists today call the blissful brain. And when you see that, I would say grace, that's why I named my project Kripa, God's grace. But God's grace, I feel that within me, then I don't need to depend on external sources to receive that joy. And so that is where that's the sattvic, that is the holiness, holy. And therefore, for me, holiness it cannot come to fulfillment unless you go through a process of wholeness. And wholeness is the journey from the periphery to the center, from the sympathetic nervous system to the central nervous system, because like Socrates, the goal of yoga meaning health, well-being, oneness, is always to know thyself. And in this process, all my programs towards the end, when we come towards the end of the program, we discover we are not our body. We are not our minds. We are not our thoughts and preoccupations, no matter how sublime or how absurd they may be. We are not our ailment. We are not our addiction. I am who I am. Tatvam asi. So aham. Be still and know that I am God. That is empowerment, which doesn't anymore need, let's say, external supports. But if you have them, excellent. So I always recommend people to have buddies, like what is called sponsors, where they connect with people who are on the same wavelength of recovery, and also connect with significant others who either are in the same condition as we are, as I am, and therefore they can feel my pain. And when I listen to their stories, I can identify stories. See, and that is where the mutually shared vulnerability empowers me. None of us are coming from power. We are coming from powerlessness. The first step says, I'm a human being, not a god, and my become unmanageable. So that first step is a good reality therapy. And that's where in yoga, when you get that authentic identity, paradoxically, your authentic identity is that the more fully human you are, the more fully divine you are. And there are people thirsting for this.
Yeah.
It's nothing to, the irony is that one has to learn to step out of control.
Right.
I wrote a beautiful book on immune power personality. It's all about how to cope with HIV/AIDS. He mentions a very important equation of control. This is where an addict finds it difficult to study this way of living that has certain dimensions where there is control. You are, I mean, these people are very gifted, and they need to have control of their corporations, of their family, and all that, okay? But what they cannot accept sometimes is uh, certain areas where they need to be controlled.
Right.
So the immune power personality becomes only a strong immune personality comes through when you see this equation fulfilled. And in the prayer by Reinhold Niebuhr, which the founding fathers chose to make the theme prayer of recovery, this equation is there. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, the wisdom to know the difference. But Walter Cannon called Weisheit, wisdom, in the body. Interesting. So for me, that is an affirmation from a scientific world to bring my cellular consciousness into that level of being where I come to the final kosher, final sheath of a body. There are 5 sheaths: food body, annamaya kosha, breath body, pranamaya kosha. Every system has a mind, manomaya kosha, mind body. All these systems have to talk, relate to one another. That's what the practice is doing. So we make these systems talk to one another, which brings about homeostasis. And that is the Vijnanamaya kosha. And finally, where you are at the end of your effort, you project that help coming from a power higher than yourself. And that is the Anandamaya kosha, blissful body. And this is measurable today scientifically, where you get even naturally not only the nitric oxide, but you can build dopamine, serotonin within you. And the common denominator of spontaneous remissions is precisely NO effect, nitric oxide effect. So my work becomes very easy because I don't have to wait for psychological tests. And okay, I do wait. I do get some kind of mapping of his journey, some kind of you scan his in craniosacral work, full scanning device, whereby you can immediately sense where the trauma lies.
Mm-hmm.
That discovery is mind-boggling because they don't realize that I have shared nothing with this man. And he's telling me exactly where I'm coming from. I mean, that is something that knocks them off completely. You know?
Right.
Then that is God's grace. Not everyone can have that gift. And the prayer of Mother Teresa is always, make me humble and worthy to serve our fellow human beings. Live and die in poverty and hunger. Give them through our hands the daily bread they need, the daily care they need. And by your love and mercy, grant me peace. All that I need is that I myself am coming from wholeness, from holiness, peace.
In your book, The Spiritual Paradox of Addiction, you talk about faith deficit. So if somebody is not really believing that there's a way home for them, they're disconnected from themselves, they're scared of the trauma in their body, they're scared of the pain. How do they start coming back to wholeness? What do you recommend for people?
The main thing about recovery is to get out of the way. allow well-being to surface, you know,
Right.
and that comes only by the teachings of the relaxation response, maybe doing the most challenging posture, like the back bend. And if I can relax in that,
Mm-hmm.
the effect in the neurological system, the effect in accepting whatever is much better. I mean, it only happens when you stop thinking that you are doing it and that there is a power within you, which is the high, not my ego, but what we call in Indian philosophy the self. Self refers to, out of your understanding, self refers to your true inner being, not my thinking mind, but a, so to say, non-cognitive mind, my mind that is now referred to as the right brain. And activating the right brain is not only to bring about what Patanjali said, chitta vritti nirodha, stop the chatter of the mind.
Right.
When Iyengar gave me Kripa Foundation Iyengar Yoga title, he said, you can't stop with these guys on stopping the chatter of the mind because they are brilliant. They can dig circles around the best therapist. So they have to discover a mind within them. That mind within them, cellular consciousness. So it is not, but it is snayu vritti nirodha. Sna referring to the cells, cellular consciousness. And there was a old saying in the Vedas, the earliest texts of Indian philosophy, that yatha pinde tatha brahmande. As it is for a human being on one's cellular consciousness level, so it is on the global level. An addict walks into treatment blaming the whole world, and he walks out of treatment taking full responsibility. That's perfectly okay. I have everything within me to understand the brokenness within me as well as the brokenness reflected in the world around me. That is a very, there is no fact, there is no thinking faculty for that. There is a faculty that opens up the noumenon, the unknown. And today's scientists dare to call that the faith factor. So when an addict comes without any faith factor, but still to be human is to believe that I am.
Mm-hmm. So even feeling really broken, there's still some spark of belief and faith.
That hope springs eternal in the human heart. And I'm finding my way. I'm working towards it. I'm moving out of darkness into God's marvelous light. Infrastructures are not just my mind, but in fact, a mind that is beyond the mind. Sri Krishna told Arjuna, you can't deal with life's problems only with your indriyas, with your senses. In Indian philosophy, there is a sixth sense, which is the mind. It's called the manas. Freud called it the id and libido mind. Okay. Then we have our controlling inner ego, ahankar. And Krishna tells Arjuna, this ahankar can never give you an answer. And that is why in addiction recovery, we don't give too much to willpower. No, we say willingness is necessary, but power has to be coming from a source other than your ego. So your ego is trapped between a sexual mind, id and libido mind, what is called the manas, And the other mind, whom you pride yourself to be uh, gifted with, and that's called the discriminative mind, buddhi. And he said, you're not going to be able to handle the problems of life because all this is on the left brain level, on the materialistic level. You have to rise above that. And that is called to encounter a higher power, to encounter me as a person. Now, I'm a Catholic priest, and in India, there was a Benedictine monk who, who gave me this beautiful blend of Hinduism with Christianity. And the Beat Griffiths he was, and he, one of the most beautiful books he wrote was The River of Compassion. It is a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita through the Gospel of St. John. It makes all the sense. And when Krishna tells Arjuna that you have to encounter me as a person, we Catholics in Catholic theologians in India believe that was when Bethlehem took place, where God so loved the world, He gave us His only Son. So, the world religions were thirsting for God. And the Judeo-Christian religion, somehow or the other, it was looked as God thirsting for man. So, the blend is human longing and God's love. It's a beautiful blend. And that is why I work on the thirst of this human being, which is in my book very clearly shown as an implosion of the original thirst. And by the way, this Carl Gustav Jung did admit that this is a struggle between good and evil, ending by telling us that the formula is spiritus contra spiritum. It's only by God's grace, God's spirit, one can overcome, ironically, a chemical that is called spirit. So
Right.
it's a very interesting thing.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so in all these analytical sharings that I have done with you, is this underlying mystery of the human being. The human being has an infinite capacity to, like a seagull, Jonathan Livingston seagull, can soar high, and
Yeah.
human being equally carries a self-destructive capacity. And sometimes most spiritually oriented people have ended up, ironically, by self-destruction. So that's where I need every day to live the prayer of Mother Teresa, that I need to be humble, and worthy to serve these fellow human beings, and walk with them hand in hand, darkness into marvelous light. There's a beautiful prayer in the Upanishads. It says, Asatoma Sadgamaya, Lord, lead me out of all ignorance into truth. Because truth is eluding the best of therapists and best of helping agents. Truth is eluding them. In fact, they are fighting with one another, making one another wrong, and leaving aside the victim. So we Satoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Lead me out of darkness into
light.
the marvelous light. Lastly, bring me out of a death-like living. Addiction is a death-like living. You're all the time unconsciously embracing death. Ironically, the more you run away from death, the more death comes to you. But the more you face death, you die to yourself in life. That's a paradox. John Henry Cardinal Newman, now recently canonized as a saint, he He said, don't be afraid that you're going to die. Rather be afraid that when the time of your death arrives, you may wake up to the realization that you have never lived.
Right.
Addiction
Yeah.
is not life. It is a death-like feeling.
You talk about addiction as one of the drivers of addiction is a longing for spiritual life connection.
Yeah, it's a deep desire for love,
Right.
which is God.
Yeah.
So, but this desire is satanically imploded in addiction. You know that comparison which the Jungian, my colleague, this Ashok Bedi talks about. It's like that we have a very good instrument here, like a Ferrari, but one small little thing is out of order, so that you can't drive this car. It's the best car in the world, but you cannot drive it. Because that
Right.
nozzle is not, it's stuck. So in addiction, you can discover that there are people who are extraordinarily talented. They just do not want to acknowledge that you as a human being have an Achilles heel. And you need to address that. Not get embarrassed by it, not get ashamed,
Mhm.
but you just embrace it, take it as my one of my addicts said in the documentary after my 25 years of this program, Kripa Foundation. He said, I thank God that I became an addict because so many things about life would never have been taught to me.
Mhm.
Beautiful journey into brokenness and out of brokenness.
Right. Right. When somebody is just awash in shame, and guilt and in despair, what words would you want them to know? What would you want them to know?
In my program, I offer totally broken bodies and broken minds and souls. I offer what is known as a restorative yoga.
Mhm.
In restorative yoga, the first component is to bring yourself to rest. You know, they ask me, why do you go abroad so often? I said, I go abroad so often to teach those people how to learn to do nothing. We are such a, busy body.
Right.
Rest. And there are parameters to judge, to measure, not judge, to measure whether this person is really in rest or
Mhm.
restlessness. You can't fool yourself. The body never tells lies. So we take measurements of, there are three parameters. One is the slowing down of your breath,
Mhm.
hypometabolic conditioning. Unlike the monkey yoga that goes about in the West, a lot of jumping yoga,
Mhm.
it's counterproductive because at least in exercise you get the proper way of getting your runner's high and all that. But in exercise yoga, you fall sick. You get blood pressure. It becomes hypertensive because you're destroying the essential components of yoga.
Mhm.
Yoga don't work only with your body. Integrate the breath and then go with the breath into the dimensions of the beyond the mind. This is not understood. Therefore, I call most of the yoga that has been exported from India lost the antaratmic dimension, the spiritual dimension.
Right.
And Carl Gustav Jung rightly said that it would be difficult for the Westerner because if you're in the mindset of reductionism, materialism, you can never understand what is antaratma, what is the dimension beyond your mind. You can't understand that.
Mhm.
So you restrict yourself to being like monkeys, you're jumping around like monkeys. Then one is trying to be more powerfully a jumping monkey than the other. So you get all kinds of hot and cold yoga and all kinds of things. This is not original yoga.
Right. It's not. Yeah.
It's not yoga. Yoga is a way of life where you operate from an encounter with the self. So that's the first thing. Encounter with the self has a big problem with who is the locus, what is the locus of control in your life. If the locus of control is my ego, I am chaotic. So the first thing that happens when you learn how to rest, what is the word for rest? Be like a corpse, shavasana. So once you bring that element of restedness and it percolates into every cell in the body, then you begin to realize that you are good, you are all right. And a scientist, our medical person, Herbert Benson, calls that remembered wellness. Remembered wellness.
Mm.
I, as a typical Catholic priest, I connect St. John's Gospel,
Mhm.
where it says, it's not our love for God, but God's love for me. That's why Mother Teresa always began her speeches with, be aware, God so loved the world, he gave us his only son, you know. And it's not something very only Christian. It is in the Chandogya Upanishad that originally the Lord expressed himself in the word, which is the universe, and this word dwells in your heart. And then the Plato Stoics worked on this whole understanding of the word. And St. John's Gospel brought out the interpretation saying that in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word was God, and the Word became flesh and dwelt amongst us. So, for me, Hinduism and Christianity are absolutely saying the same thing. Now, once you come to realize that you are not God, the history of the Alcoholics Anonymous is by Ernie Kurtz. The title of that book is Not God. We have to learn that we are not God. Okay, uh, it's we are. Be still and know we are. We realize we are made in the image of God. But that awareness is not being said, not being acknowledged by my ego, but rather by the self that is in communion with creation, with the whole cosmos. So restedness comes when authentically three parameters are fulfilled. What is called hypometabolic conditioning. Slowing down the breath, slowing down the heart rate, and slowing down the brain waves. This is measurable. You go in meditation, people teach a lot of meditation, but they're still in the beta state. This is not meditation. You're talking, you're not listening, you're not really present. So, how do you bring, let's say, an alpha state in the brain? How do you bring even dropping the brain waves to gamma and epsilon? How? That is this integration of owning up and letting it go. You own up the body in variety of asanas and you let go. You own up the breath in variety of pranayams and you let go. When you come from letting go of the body after doing all your body work, you experience restedness. When you let go of your breath, which you have activated in variety of ways, you come into an inner state of stillness. And this brings about not only a sense of wellness, but empowerment that all shall be well. Once a person feels I'm loved and I'm all right, then one gets that gift. Faith is a gift. And you get that breakthrough feeling that all shall be well. And I always like to bring in the mantra of the lady mystic, Juliana of Norwich, who said, all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well.
It's a beautiful prayer.
Yeah, it's a nice, it's a good conclusion for sessions that we call not a workout, but a work in.
Mhm.
It makes a big difference.
Mhm.
You know, all this is the dimension of the body within the self-help program. Self-help program has two strong dimensions, psycho-spirituality and psychosocial dimension, either our relationship, but it lacks the body. So in the 75th World Congress of the Alcoholics Anonymous, I gave the keynote address and told them that the founding fathers providentially used one word. The 11th step sought through prayer and meditation to seek to improve my conscious contact with God, me praying for the knowledge of God's will and the power to carry that out. I said, that word, meditation, in India is the seventh limb of Ashtanga Yoga. So if you want to really meditate with your body, then you learn how to deal with your stiffness, how to come to feel your essential goodness, that you are all right. And if you have reached the stage of well being, then there is no reason why this stage can go into a relapse unless you forget who's ruling your life and try to take charge of your life again and make a mess of it. So you have to hold on to the gift of healing. Okay.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much. So, how would people learn more about your work and you? And what's your website you'd like to send them to? Or
My website name is kripafoundation.org. That's
okay,
my website.
okay,
And soon coming up is another website,
hmm
which is Foundation Iyengar Yoga.
oh,
That is a community of yoga practitioners who want to use their skill to reach out to the afflicted people. And
oh,
that's a growing community in more than 40 countries. Students have taken this teaching into communities and facilities like AIDS Center for Addiction and Mental Health. We are very much there in Joseph's Hospital,
oh,
and
wonderful.
so we are reaching out to people afflicted and very anti-body, because many addicts don't like to work on their body. So when we introduce this, we have to do it in a very gentle manner and therefore restorative. Once you rest, you start feeling well. Once you start feeling well, you start believing.
hmm hmm Well, that's beautiful. Well,
And
thank you. Yeah, thank you again. I'll put those up for people so they can go.
this is the blessing that God gave me through my Guruji. He said on the 25th anniversary of Kripa, he said, Joe has planted a seed, and I would like that seed to become a gigantic tree. And I think it is already becoming one. So I'm blessed, and I'm blessed to meet people like you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Namaste.
Welcome.
Hello, this is Lynn Fraser with the Kiloby Center Radical Recovery Summit. We are so excited to bring you the lineup for January 10th to 19th, 2020. Go to radicalrecoverysummit.com to see the new headliners for 2020 and to sign up. You can watch free January 10th to 19th or buy an all-access pass.